Hi everyone, this is Ricky Spencer and welcome to the Sociology of Media Voices series. And today we've got someone who's going to make us laugh, cry, and maybe think a bit more about why we do what we do when we do. And that special person is Dean Arcuri. Now, I probably didn't pronounce that correctly, but I'm sure he'll correct me very soon. He is an entertainer, journalist, photographer, community darling, and all-round busy homosexual. Don't you just love that title? As a cabaret comedian, he has performed for over a decade in festivals around the country. As both himself and his queer alter ego, the fabulous furry Frock Hudson. Welcome to our show, Dean.
Hello, thank you for having me. It was Arcuri, but you were much closer than I think a lot of other people ever have been when it comes to getting my name right. So yeah, you.
Dean, I have followed you for many years, and you have someone who has been a real breath of fresh air in the entertainment industry. I've loved your segments on Ben TV for people who want to Google that and Google Dean to see his work. So Dean, how did you, let's now go a bit back in time. What was Dean the young boy growing up like?
Look, I think Dean the young boy was probably pretty much, if you ask anyone, probably just as, scattered and full of beans as I was now. I was always an extrovert, very much an extrovert. I was that kid when we were all camping together, a caravan camping park and thing. We'd get the kids together, we'd put on shows and I'd direct them and things like that. I knew I always wanted to perform. I knew I always loved that. And when other kids would veer towards sport, my parents had a rule where you had to play sport for your fitness, which is a very good one. At the time, I didn't get that it's actually really important every week to go and have a run and be a part of teams and things. So I was playing basketball, but for me, I always kept trying to push myself in another direction, which was dance and drama. And I actually, I love the physicality and I just loved entertainment and acting and yeah, that's kind of where it was. But young me was pretty much like this, a little bit thinner, and that's what happens over the years, and full of beans, yeah.
And Dean, what was it like, your experiences in high school? At that stage, were you aware of your emerging identity in terms of sexuality?
I was. I say I was lucky. I mean, everyone has different experiences about how they identify with who they are and their sexual or gender identity. For me, I always knew I liked men on some level. I used to say I always knew I was gay. I think around the age of 16, I was wanting to make sure, as silly as this sounds now, I realized as I'm phrasing it, I wanted to make sure I wasn't bi. And in the back of my mind, I thought I didn't want to say I'm gay and have that be a huge revelation for a family and then actually go back and say I'm bi. But for me, it was because I remember my first memory of being attracted to the male form was ironically when I was on holiday with my family in Tasmania. And I think the age I was 8, and it was just we were in a newsagent getting petrol, and I remember seeing the magazines in the plastic, sealed plastic, and there was some play men or play girl or something. And
I remember that.
And then when my dad saw me, I was like, oh. And I loved comics. I love superheroes. I love all that kind of stuff. So I just grabbed a Batman and Robin magazine, which happened to be for the anniversary of the original series. And there was that as well. So I remember, I very much remember being attracted to that form and all of that. So for me, I always knew that I had an attraction to men. And when I was in high school, I made a conscious decision. If anyone ever asked me if I was gay, I would tell them. And then I'll probably get to a story about that as we keep talking. But I didn't want to come out in high school because I went to all boys religious school, Whitefriars, a very good school, but let's be honest, we're talking like 90s, and the schools weren't in the space or place to really support queer students in any way, shape or form, especially a religious one. But it's also, for me, I think my own detriment was I was a big thinker. I was a very big thinker. So I'd look at the whole picture and I just thought, you know what, while it's going to be great, I'm still this young kid who, it's not like I can go out to dance parties. It's not like I can go and do things. Then I'm going to have to deal with coming out constantly. And I just wanted to, because, sorry, I've just realized I thought I had turned this off and I'm just going to do that. And I just realized that I had, I didn't want to be dealing with all of that when I just wanted to get through school. Now, I think a part of a thing for me is school for me, it wasn't the be all and end all. I wanted to be a performer. That was where my passion lied. I wanted to sing, I wanted to act. I loved doing the school musicals. I loved all of that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what mattered to me. So the education portion, I wanted to make sure I did well, but I was never, school was that thing I was just trying to get through so that I could get to drama class, so I could get to practice my craft. So I never looked at school as the be all and end all. And it was that same thing where I thought, if I now in a school environment come out, I'm putting it in a much better way than I thought at the time. I thought, I'm going to have to deal with all this stuff and it's going to derail what I care about, which wasn't school. So I made that choice to go, and a part of it, let's be real, it sounds more logical now. I know I thought that, but there was also fear. I was also concerned and scared and didn't know what it would mean and didn't know what it would mean to come out. Another friend of mine who was a year below me came out in the last couple of years of high school, and it made things really hard for him. And he was and I think I just finished or was in my final year. And that was really difficult for him, because balancing that within the school doesn't know how to do it. And the school didn't know how to support it or what it meant because it was a religious school as well. And it wasn't easy, but the beauty for me was I had good friends. We were all a part of musicals. Ironically, my two best friends from the high school that I was a part of are also gay. And I found that out a couple of years later as well. We were still friends, and it's quite funny. I found out that they were also same-sex attracted. One running into him at Three Faces, and and going, "Let's finally talk about this because I've been seeing you for a couple of years." And the other one at his 21st birthday, where his uni friends who were gay thought that I was a terrible homosexual who had treated him poorly, because whenever he'd see me out, he would go, we've got to go, we've got to go. So they thought I was someone who treated him poorly and didn't realize I was a person that's known him for years, who's also his friend, who's also gay, who hadn't come out and he hadn't told me yet. So it's this funny thing where you realize I was so, hesitant, didn't want to do it, didn't want to get distracted. But I spent my teenage years surrounded by other gay men that were experiencing the same thing.
Can I ask you, just before we move to the next thing, would it have helped you? Was there any visibility of any teachers that were gay or that you thought?
Yeah, looking back now, yes, there was actually, we did have two teachers in the school who were, but they weren't allowed to be open to a certain degree. That's definitely changed within the school. The school has put more work in and actually reached out to me a couple of years after they left, after unfortunately a past student had taken his own life because he couldn't be honest about his sexuality, and they were trying to figure out how to deal with it. This was a golden child within the school and stuff. And it helped a little bit, but not in the same kind of way. Because when you think about it, all boys school, puberty, burdening sexuality, my brain went in a different way, which is why I'm a firm believer in diversity. I think I got more help from the female teachers, ones that weren't male identifying. And that's why I'm a big, diversity is very important to me. That visibility, that different layers of communications and experiences to what is yours, that's what I want to see in schools I want to see schools making sure their teaching staff are that breadth of ideas, opinions, body types, gender and sexual identities, ethnicities, because that's where students can see what's connecting. It's a funny thing that I didn't connect with the gay teachers in any way, shape or form. I did connect with the others because it meant something different to me or what I was going through.
Very fascinating. Thank you for that insight, Dean. Now let's go to that day that you finished your year 12 and you thought, I'm going to have a career. How did you come to choose your schools or where you wanted to go?
Well, performing was always in me, so I knew which direction I was going to go in. And when I was thinking about where I wanted to go to, well, when it comes to drama and dance, everyone was like, VCA, you got to go to VCA, you got to go to VCA. But everyone says you got to go to VCA and it doesn't mean you're going to. I've spent a huge chunk of my life being told it's not going to be you. So I'm all about backup plans. And I don't say that in a negative way, as in even though you can sing the song beautifully, you're the wrong body type. so we're going to give it to this tall guy over here who can also sing the wrong. It's the nature of that industry. Or even like I was always cast as the funny, short person and things like that. It's just the nature of the beast of the art form. You're looked at physically, and they make, you know, a choice about where you're going to sit within the spectrum of it. I'm 5'7". I'm broad-shouldered. Sure, I've got sideburns, and at a young age, I looked older, which was a different experience. But it was that thing where it was like, I'm used to being told it's not going to be you. When I would go to auditions, when I would meet with agents, we aren't looking for anyone to deliver pizzas on Neighbours at the moment. That was the only role I was told. It was just that, like, it was about the blonde. It was about, when you look at mainstream television, the Italian, and I'm Italian, like, I can't hide it. I was told repeatedly to get a nose job, and I'm like, no, not with the shape of my face. That's insane. But that's the industry. And it's that thing as well where, and this is where I learned, I went, I can change things about my body, but I can't change things about myself. So I've just got to roll with those punches, especially being in an industry like that. And I was a kid. So the irony of ironies is that when I was even younger, I kept being put forward for Indigenous youth roles because of my olive skin. And then I would get told, I remember once, it was a series called Boney, and I was told I had the role, a mini series.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I was told I was playing, I would get the role of young Boney, and Mum and Dad were like, nah, we've got work, you know, we're not going to be able to get you here and there, so you're not going to get it, which I still remember. But also, when they had a conversation with me going, you also shouldn't be playing an Indigenous character, like,
yes.
and which is such, and it's things like, I feel very grateful for my, you know, my family is very important to me. They mean the world to me. And I know different people in the LGBTIQA plus communities have different relationships to their families. I just feel very grateful for the ideas that they instilled in me in the thought process. Like, even at the time, we didn't have a deep conversation about it, but they're like, you shouldn't be playing an Indigenous person. And they're 100% correct. Like, it's just that thing. And it's not even, so yeah. But I always knew this is the path that I was wanting to go on. So when I was looking at unis, everyone said VCA, and I went to VCA, and I'll be honest, like, you're told VCA, got to go to the top tier. Something for me with it didn't jive, which didn't matter because I didn't get into VCA anyway. I only picked two choices for the schools I wanted to go to. They were two very different extremes. One was Deakin Rusden, which was a separate campus to the one that's for Deakin now. And where all the art, it's ironically, it was where the biological science was and all of the art. So there was dance, there was theatre studies, there was media studies, and this is everything I loved. Like the top tier stuff I did for my VCE, literature, media, drama, all high distinctions, maths methods, because I'm like, well, you got to do a maths. You got to do a maths. You got to challenge your brain, and that was all stuff I knew. And I knew maths I wasn't going to do amazing at. I got a C+ average. Was very happy because that means, you know, you understand it. You're doing well. I'm not excelling at it, but I've got a good foundation. So I knew I was okay with where my direction was. And I found a school that was creative for my university, and it really fed into that side of me, which was making something out of nothing. And it's also that narrative that we have in schools where you're told, oh, you've got to make sure if you don't get this score, you're not going to get in, which I've said to all of my cousins and their friends and things, I'm like, you know what, if you don't hit that mark, it's not like you've spent 12 years doing all of this work to only hit this thing, and then if you don't hit it, you're a failure. Everyone in life goes through different jobs and different directions, and all it means is, you know, you've got to just try a different pathway to get what you want. But the important thing is to understand the direction you want to go in. I knew, and when I got accepted into Deakin Rusden, I couldn't have been happier because it was really an amazing artistic space. They taught you as an artist how to make something out of nothing, which I still consider to be the most amazing thing ever. The teachers were still working as performers. So, you know, it meant that we would have conversations about what it's like, you know, trying to get an agent or experiences that they've had professionally. But it was about you learning about the art of entertainment, of theatre, and really learning at it from a space of, you know what, you're going to hit a point in your life that you've got nothing and you've got to make do. And especially, you know, during this pandemic and being stuck in my home, and I'm very grateful for what that's taught me and how that's taught me things. I've made some amazing friends that I'm still friends with from that environment, but being able to find the right university that fed my head and my heart in the right way and the right cause, I think has made a huge difference to how I approach my artistry and my life.
Mm. So Dean, going now, moving forward, you complete your degree. How did you develop your artistic personas?
Well, I had quite a few years being told no, constantly. I got a lot of extra work.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned, the tricks like I learned a lot of tricks on how to make sure you can get in the right spot, in the right shot, all those different things. But I was still hitting a lot of walls that were, it's not going to be you. And that was in mainstream television, which as a young child, because they've got this breadth of young people trying to do stuff and create stuff, like I look at that now and go, well, that's the industry, that's the business. It's hard knocks, but everyone has opportunities. Just because you don't feel like, and that was way back at the time where there were Yahoo groups, and there was some great online, social media was still finding its way, but some great online spaces where you could connect and talk with professional artists who were just like, yeah, I never had to experience this, but I just go to this audition, and realizing, the arts world is not like the corporate world. You can't approach it in the same manner. You might not get the job, but that's okay. And because I learned and was trained on how to do things myself, that's what I started to do. I would work within the theatre, work within amateur theatre, not just as performing, but also, directing and theatre checking, and just making sure to keep upping my skills. And in the background, I was working on shows and characters. For years, everyone was like, oh, you're a triple threat. You can sing, you can dance, and you can act. You should go into musical theatre. A rule of Dean, if everything that someone says I should do, I'm over here going, yeah, but this is what I want to do. And I believe, you can do multiple things. You don't have to just be one archetype. You don't have to be one thing. And while many people would say that that's gotten in my way over the years, I feel like that's made me even stronger now. And, you can have all these different art forms that you can be a part of. And I wanted to learn them all. So even at university, I was doing a double degree, and I did an additional year to keep studying the classes that I wanted to do. So I could also do dance, theatre studies. I was trying to do, I was like, I'd rather add another year in. And even though it's not going to sit as a triple degree in a title, I'm going to get the learning. I just like having fingers in pies and being able to learn and have a variety of skills.
You can just follow this point. It really fascinates me with your love of theatre and arts. And I just want to sort of digress for a minute just to get your feeling about how the government has, in the last couple of years, sort of shifted its support for this area. And one of the things that I'm upset about is now the costs for students like yourself coming up that want to be like yourself, and the fees that they now have to do to study. And it's the reduction, because I remember at the time when I attended Victoria College, you could choose so many subjects and there was so much expertise. And whereas now all the options are very limited, especially in creative spaces that people tell me.
Terrible. It makes me angry. Like, honestly, the arts portion of our education, it's not just the ones arts is very broad. So it's not just what I sit in. And even when Rusden of Deakin moved to the other campus, and I was speaking to some of the students there and teachers even at that time, the dance structure, the dance course, which I did the dance, I loved it. And another example of me, like I was doing ballet. I don't have the physicality of a dancer, but I loved it and I did it very well. So I kept doing it within the course. And they were like, well, they're trying to tie dance into media and all these different things, which is them trying to hit a bottom line of what they have to do as an organization and corporation. But it makes me really angry, but it also is that thing where I'll remind people that learning is not just what you do in an educational structure. It's in every part of your life. It's in every place of your life. And at any time, at any age, at any ability, you can sit down and go, I want to do this, and you can put the work in to do it. And I think it's terrible, but it's not, and I think it may delay some people, but it's not going to stop them.
And what about, I remember, and I was just wondering, with your time in high school, was the Rock of Stedford at that period of time when you were still in high school, or was
I think it was after, but it wasn't something we had school musicals. It wasn't something that I was ever a part of. And I'd been doing stuff for years. So I would walk in and go like, this is the role I want to have. Here's the notes I can hit. Hopefully I'll get it. And I loved it. Like the communities, school communities are interesting, and a lot of people always think they're just about your friendship community. But whether it's playing sport, whether it's doing a show, I love dipping my hand in every pie that I could. The teachers didn't as much. I remember the drama teachers telling me really wanted to practice something other than musical theatre, and I was already in a musical, and we were doing 12 Angry Men, and I was being told I'm not going to be cast in it because we want to give other people a chance. And I went, well, I understand that. And I actually said to the teacher, I went, well, I can understand that. Shouldn't a thing that we're teaching people is also, you know, like, and I went, would I be cast if I wasn't in the musical? She goes, yes. And I was like, okay, well, give me a small role. Like I wanted to, and because I was also, it was very obvious to these teachers. I was saying, this is what I want to do for work. This is what I want to do as a profession. So I want to learn as much as I can. And in this environment, this is what you've got to give me. So I was very frustrated by that. Another thing that happened with one of my lecturers in my final year of university was the fact that because I didn't have the physicality of a male student, of a male dance student, they took, I injured myself where I actually twisted, I hurt a part of my back and I was very injured. And I had the option to spread out my classes that I could do. And the teacher was like, no, you can only do mine. And this teacher, respectfully, because they were going in another direction with what they were doing for their course, I say it as nice as possible. I felt very clearly that they didn't want me in their class in any way, shape or form. I didn't fit the build of a dancer for them. And because part of their final performance piece fed into their academic work as well, they didn't want me as a part of it because physically I didn't fit it. And I fought against that because I'm like, I might not physically fit it, but I can still do the job. So like I say, I've had a lifetime of people saying, not you, and it's not, and it's just because they do that. But I not only push against it, if the answer's still going to be, it's not going to be me, I'm still going to stand there and I'm still going to stand tall. That's how I kind of approach it.
And Dean, I really love that. And I don't like using that I word, inspiring, but you know, that really touched me when you said that, because a lot of kids, young students may be listening to this who think, you know, I really want to perform, I want to dance, but they feel that their embodiment is such that they don't fit that ideal, as you're saying, to be a certain look. And what you're showing us is that if your passion to dance or any type of theatre work, don't let that be an obstacle of people say, and that's obviously shaped you to the person you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like hearing the word inspiring, I always feel a little bit uncomfortable about it because it's not where I approach something from. Like, it's not my intent. This is my body. I can't change it. It doesn't mean I can't do things. It limits in certain ways, like everyone's bodies do. Like if you look at athletes and you look at gymnastic athletes even, there's a certain age where your body's just not going to go that way anymore and they're out of that field, but it doesn't mean they can't still do what they do, still put in that work. And yeah, you might put in more work that other people might naturally have, but that's life. You know, everyone has, you might look at someone and go, oh, they've got it so much easier than me, but I can guarantee you, they're probably looking at you and saying the exact same thing, because everyone has hardships in lots of different ways and shapes, and everyone approaches things differently. So it's all about finding a way to make something work for you and to all come together and meet in the middle. That's community.
And tell me, how did, like, going into community, did you get involved with Bent TV?
Well, I mean, as a performer, it was just an opportunity to do some things. And the beauty of community television and community radio even, it's great because it gave us all opportunities to just be ourselves. And you know, I'm an extrovert. I can host things. I can perform at things. Bent TV is happening. I got in touch, and sometimes they'd even get in touch with me. The beauty of that community is they'd see a person like this and have a chat when we'd see each other out, or send a message on social media and go, do you want to give this a try? And that's what I started doing. And whether it was doing interviews or being a guest or doing a performance, it was really great. And I really love it. Like, I think it's wonderful that Channel 31 here in Victoria has been given, I think it's Victoria and South Australia, has been given a further 3-year license.
Oh, that's fun.
The community media to me is everything. It's everything. I love it. I love being a part of it. I've loved being able to shape things with it. I think it's beyond important, and it reminds you that your voice, no matter, once again, no matter your ability, everyone's voice matters, not just the one that sits in a mainstream.
And this is like the whole series, Voices, and you just said the crux of the whole essence of it. So for you, Dean, now, where do you see yourself, say, in 10 years' time?
Look, I don't even know. I at the moment, I can't think that far ahead. I'll be honest. Right now, I'm sitting down and going, I'm working on my health, especially while in lockdown in my home. I'm working on, next year is going to be my 16th Midsummer Festival, which is Melbourne's Queer Arts and Culture Festival. And last year I was like, I'm not going to celebrate the 15th. I remember doing a lot of events for celebrating the 10th. So at the moment, I'm just working on the next 6 months. And during this time as an artist, I think that's all I can do. Work on the next 6 months and add a bit more on and see how I go. But, 10 years from now, as long as I'm happy, then great, whatever that may be.
Dean, what's it been like for you as an artist during this COVID period of lockdown?
Look, it's not been easy. I'm not going to lie. It's been crazy. We're an industry that, and I'm a self-employed artist. Like, so sorry, is it self-employed? Yeah, like I do it all myself. We don't have live shows. I'm all about the pivot. Finding ways in which I can. So I started straight away when this started in April 2020. The first thing I did was I do a weekly trivia, and it's in a gay bar, a gay pub, and it's very niche specifically for that venue here in Melbourne. And I'm glad to be. It's funny. I love doing that trivia because it's very much about the community that go to that venue. And I love creating things specifically for the communities in that venue of any performance level, whether it be doing an event or whatever. And I wanted to still keep that going. So knowing that I can do some things technically, touched base with another friend of mine and said, let's literally the first week lockdown happened, went, what can we do together to kind of keep things rolling? And through doing that, I've kept doing the trivia weekly. And I started doing drag story times on Facebooks and dragging up. And something that I did on Wear It Purple Day last year that I just keep rolling with in lockdowns is Frock Up Fridays, where my queer alter ego Frock Hudson literally gets on Facebook. I connect a computer that's got karaoke tracks on it and sing song that people pick. So I'm exercising. I'm exercising my voice. I'm exercising my brain. I'm connecting with people that need it, whether I know them or not. But also they're a part of the process. So I never when I'm doing things, especially for community, I never make it just about myself. If I'm creating a show that you're coming to watch, absolutely. I'll stand in that spotlight and I'll do exactly what I want to do. But when I'm doing something like an event to entertain, that's on a bit more of a different level, I like to bring people along for that ride. They're as much a part of it. Everyone who's in that room is as much a part of the art form as the person that's got the microphone in their hand, as far as I'm concerned, because I can't do what I do without them, and vice versa. So I just started thinking about, like I said before, that training, thought and training that I had in university at Rusden, going, well, when you've got nothing, what do you do? And started figuring it out. And you know what? I'm excited for it now because what I'm doing online is expanding. I'm able to help other community groups create things and do events and do things in that way. And I'm really grateful for it. I did my first solo cabaret show on Saturday night. I did at home with Dean, and I literally set up different cameras in my kitchen and did a performance for an hour, and it was amazing. And even though I've spent a year live streaming, let's jump on. I do a trivia every week. Let's do this. Actually crafting a show like I've done for a live audience, creating something that niche was really fulfilling. And afterwards, I broke down in tears for like 15 minutes, and it was a good, healthy cry that I didn't know I needed to have, because I was exercising a part of myself that's felt locked away because of the circumstances of the pandemic. So I just, I think, and I'm able to help other groups as well. So I'm really grateful for it. But I kind of just went, all right, well, I've just got to roll with it. So last year, in the first couple of weeks, I assumed we were going to be in this situation till at least December. So I planned for it. And it's all about the planning. I spoke to people, asking them questions. We tried different things to figure out what worked and what didn't while we were able, so that when we were in this situation, it helped others to be able to connect.
Dean, is there some area that of artistry that you're still wanting to do or that you haven't yet tried?
I want to focus over, actually, I definitely want to focus more on strict plays. Like, I love
Oh,
cabaret. I love singing. I love drag. I love the extrovert nature of it, but I'd love to work with some great scripts and some serious work. And I mean, look, if I can get cast, some more work on television as well. I've been able to, and I mean literally working with scripted work, not doing
mhm.
news reports or things like that. That would make me really happy.
Great. And it's for the audience, because as you know, we have a Australia-wide audience in media spaces. If people were interested or they had a project in mind for you, how could they reach you?
Look, on all my socials, they have my email or private messaging on all the social medias. That to me is the way to roll. You know what? Something is funny as well, because we were talking about me as an artist, and another thing I want to just mention within me and the community as well is my journalism.
Mm.
For nearly 10 years, I've worked as a journalist within the LGBTIQA plus spaces as well. Like, I did media studies in school and I loved it. And the thing I think, if I know this is going out to schools and things, that I'd like kids to think of is opportunities are always there no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I was performing and doing shows, I was also working as a journalist at the same time. And that's an opportunity that just fell into my lap when one of the Melbourne editor of SameSame at the time, Travis, SameSame.com.au, that's no longer a publication running a
Oh,
website, got in touch with me and said, "Oh, I'm moving to Sydney." And he was the Melbourne editor, and went, "I'm moving to Sydney, and I've put your name down for this because I just think you'd be able to do it. You're really connected and you're really passionate." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I had a phone meeting with the then main editor, the lovely Matt, and who I'm still friends with now. And we just chatted, and he went, "Well, your head says, what would you do if you were doing stories about your community? How would you do this? How would you do that?" And I just went, "Cool, I'm going to give it a go," and was suddenly also a Victorian editor for an LGBTIQA plus publication that morphed again into doing that for Star Observer and helping it get back up as a publication for Melbourne here in Victoria,
mm.
and also creating content for our communities like that with Bed TV and building on that further. So it's that whole thing where just because you're working on one career path doesn't mean these skill sets and things that you've got can't build in others. And I think it's really important. It may seem scattered to some people, but for me, it feeds all these different parts of my soul. And I love it.
And it seems that, yeah, that you're so interconnected with the media. I don't think we could see another. Is there any other part of Dean that that you thought you would like to try or
Look,
explore?
well, I just do. Like, the thing with it all, you know what I would love to do? Ease up on the busyness a little bit so I could get involved in some inclusive sporting teams. Because I've
Oh,
reported on them for
okay.
so long and they're so
Oh,
fantastic. And
great.
they create such great environments for people. And I
Mm-hmm.
love what they do and the passion and how they do it. And I want to play a little bit more. So that's another thing that I want to focus on in the next portion of my life. But for me, it's just... It's funny. It's not just not saying no. When an opportunity comes your way, the worst thing you can do is not do it right. You know, failure, we all feel like a failure at times, but failure isn't a dirty word. It's, I don't like the word failure because it implies you could have done so much better. And sometimes what circumstances just mean you don't hit the target you're meant to. That happens to us every day. You might not have had the right meal or had enough water, or you might just be emotionally or physically exhausted. So it's always about setting a target that works for you. And when opportunities have come my way, I've said yes, because the alternative would be, what am I going to do? If someone says, I've got an... And I'm very grateful to a good friend of mine, Michael Dalton, the lovely Dolly Diamond, who
Mm.
literally said, when Dolly suggests a song for me that I would never think of, when Michael brings me and goes, "I think you should do this song," my first response is, I would never think of it. And it's every time I think no, but I say yes. And it's that same thing within my community. I am connected. I am an extrovert. I am social. And I don't make things about me that don't have to be. So it worked really well for me to work in the media, to elevate the voices of our communities and do things, because even though everyone sees it as Dean, like even when you were saying I've been following you for years, I just go, really? I mean, yeah, I guess I have been doing this for a while, but I just don't see it that way.
Mm.
You know, that's a bonus to me, that people see that and come to see me do things. But it's, for me, it's always about connecting and building more.
Dean, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing your voice and your journey through the media, and we hope to hear more of you, as I'm sure we will, and we wish you all the success. And if anyone would like to get in touch with Dean, we'll provide the links, and then also look out for Dean, because he's does a lot of great work in the community and also online to capture his beautiful voice that I've had the pleasure of listening to, and would recommend to everyone. Thank you, Dean, for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really wonderful.